Do you experience that? It must be some sort of like phenomenon.
100%. I think just time gets not on your side. It's like, well, you better hurry. You got to go.
Better hurry.
Come on.
Yep. Because there's nothing you can do about it afterwards because you're gone and it's not going to get done anyways. Where in the world are you these days? Are you back in Texas or where are you at today?
We are in Fort Worth. So the whole band's kind of spread out across the DFW.
How do you think about hyping up people for new music coming?
I've never been big on setting up in front of the phone and doing stuff. I've tried it before. I've done it a few times, but I usually do songs we already have. I think when it comes down to new music, I feed off of the crowd, but I feed off of a live audience.
Hey guys, welcome everybody to the Real Country podcast with Nikki and Eshel. That's me. And you guys are in for a treat this week. So we just did the first one last week and we're back with the second round. And I'm also stoked for this conversation. And I was telling him before we even got on here that it always makes me happy when technology works the first time around because sometimes it doesn't and we all hate that. But I have artist Justin Ross and the Deadwood Revival with me, and we're going to be chatting music and life over the next little bit of time. So I'm glad that you guys have joined us. Before we get going, I'm going to go into a little rant because I have ADHD and everybody loves it when I do these. But so I'm going on a trip tomorrow, leaving for Denver. And it's weird to me. I don't know, maybe you experienced this, but like most of the days that exist prior to going on trips just kind of like muddle by, right? They're just like, I feel like days just like take forever to lapse. But the day before you go on a trip seems like it just goes by so quickly. It's like you have all these things to do. And normally you're just like, yes, I can absolutely get it done in the time that I have allotted. And I just looked at the clock before we jumped on here and I was like, what the heck? I've got a million things left to do. How is it already 3 o'clock in the afternoon? Do you experience that? It must be some sort of like phenomenon.
100%. 100%. I think just time gets not on your side. It's like, well, you better hurry. You got to go.
Better hurry.
Come on.
Yep. Because there's nothing you can do about it afterwards because you're gone and it's not going to get done anyways. Well, okay. So that was my rant, tangent over. Mr. Justin, I have a little bio for you. I'm going to read for you guys so you know what's going on. Fort Worth, Texas native, Justin Ross is a mix of rock, soul, roots, blues, swamp rock, Texas music, and much more. That's quite a combination. Over the years, he's played with a variety of different bands such as Aaron Lewis, Everlast Warrant, Hinder, Stony LaRue, Fuel, and more. Wow, goodness. His current band, Justin Ross and Deadwood Revival, was established October 2022. And as of the beginning of May, you just dropped an EP called Bring Me Home. How are you doing?
Yeah. Good. I'm doing great.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm stoked that you are here. I appreciate you being on. We have a lot of fun things to chat about, and you guys are going to get, I think you're going to have fun with this one. I think I'm going to too. But where in the world are you these days? Are you back in Texas or where are you at today?
We are in Fort Worth. So the whole band's kind of spread out across the DFW. And so, but yeah, home base is Fort Worth. So we kind of just branch out from here, which is 30 some odd years of doing this now. We're finding out that the tour routes, we've always done Texas, Colorado, New Mexico, stuff, but now it's like really branching out. And it's like, we were on the phone with the agent the other day talking about this first leg, and it's like 6 weeks long. And I'm like, oh my God, it's all the way up to Des Moines, all the way out to like Virginia. And then we're coming down and I'm like, man, I'm looking at this first part of the run and I'm going Arkansas, Missouri, Kansas, Des Moines. I'm like, man, that's 4 days. That's a hell of a spread in 4 days.
Back to back to back. Yeah.
It'll be
how you guys do it.
It'll be 4 shows a week. It'll be Wednesday through Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday off. It's 6 weeks the first leg, home for 2, then out for 7, then home for 3, then back out for the first 6 again.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. That sounds like a busy schedule. We'll have to dig into that for sure. Like, I would say I don't know how you guys do that. My boyfriend's currently on tour and he kind of like, this is my first experience, I guess I would say, with figuring out how the life of a touring artist works, sleeping on a bus at night, just waking up and being in the next town the next morning and then just having to do it all again over and over. Is that something that you really enjoy or it's kind of like, it's just new all the time? I
think we would enjoy it more if we were on a bus, but this is 6 dudes crammed in a van with a trailer. So the only good part is that we have hotels each night and we have Airbnbs on the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And that's really important because it's like everybody kind of gets away from each other, goes and gets a Zen moment somewhere and gets out of the,
moment.
Get away from each other, And but we're all we're literally like a family. Like there's no one in this band that doesn't know each other like we all know each other like the back of our hand. So we all know our little quirks and things and when not to do, don't say this, don't do that, don't, or we really know when to jack with each other, because if someone's slacking, we give them the what fors.
Absolutely. Well, and that confined of a space and being with each other all the time, I'm assuming that you get to know each other pretty well. But that's good that, you have a hotel and Airbnb that you can kind of hang out with. I mean, that sounds better than, since they get hotels like day rooms and hotels on days that they're off and stuff, but they are on a bus while they're driving town to town, but they have to sleep while the bus is going. So it doesn't seem like it's very comfortable or like really conducive to sleep because, but at least you guys get to sleep in hotels every night, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's that. And thank God for that too. Cause I've been on a bus before and it's like, I'm really tall. So get me on a tour bus, that bus bed's gotta be long. And I've been crammed in one before. I was on tour with Saliva for a while, and
oh wow,
and I was on the other side of the fence running production for them, and so they were like, "Oh, there's your bunk," and it was like the top one, and I'm like, "Oh, of course," because I'm tall. So I crawled up there to get in it, and then the bus had to take a shit, and I just bloop, I fell right out of it. I was like, "This is crazy."
Oh my gosh. But, your own personal rolling coffin, it seems like, just
totally
up in there.
100%.
So when you say, some of the bands and the acts that I read off earlier, when it says you've had experience playing with them, is it in all different capacities? Like, have you been touring with them as managers or as like crew, or have you been playing in the band doing different instrumentalists or background vocals, or kind of like what has your experience been with a lot of those other artists prior to doing what you're doing now?
Before Deadwood, we were doing just kind of straight up and down Texas rock and roll. And we did that for, the better part of like 25 years. And what I think is funny is like now it's like, here we are doing Deadwood, and I'll let the story again about how all that came to be. But it's like, now I'm seeing this massive shift for this like alternative rock country coming involved. And I'm like, how were you guys 10 years ago? We got records on top of records of this. And so I just swam with the river and started calling some of these guys. I was like, you need some music. Here's a whole 3 records of this. So with all these other bands, it was literally going out and opening up for them. We were just getting shows, like, we want you to be direct support, or we want you to, just be the opener or whatever. So we were just kind of getting thrown in these spots all over the place. Nice. And so just along the way, the Hinder story is kind of funny because we lived in the same area back in college. Mm-hmm. And so there was like 3 bands that got shows to go open up for different acts. And it was SoCo, which was our band at the time, and then Headroom and Hinder. So it was like one of the 3 in Oklahoma City, and we were going back and forth opening up. And then Hinder, at that point, something happened financially, really good for them. And, that was, and there they went. And I was like, oh, there they go. I'm going to go back to Texas now,
Well, that's cool. That's amazing that you got that experience with them. And like you said before, kind of like, hey, where was everyone 10 years ago when this whole like the want of the country rock kind of like Southern grunge rock and roll kind of came about with the country. And I was at Whiskey Jam not too long ago, but it actually was very long ago now, a few months. And he was there. I think he redid Lips of an Angel with a female country star. So maybe he's like trying to jump into the country sphere too. Like, I guess like a lot of the pop people as well, but that's for another day.
It's funny. What you're watching is you're watching country guys go more rock, and you're watching the rock guys go back to like old country. It's so mixed up right now. I'm just going, definitely. Hell is going on around here? Beyonce singing country. The lead singer from Saving Abel is now singing country. Then you see country guys doing pop songs. I'm going, somebody put something in the water. Somebody put something in the water. They did. Lots
of crossover going on now. We just had footage too from, I'm too old to stay out this late, but like 12:30 in the morning, MGK came and performed during CMA Fest. And I was like, I see all of the videos of him. He had some of his like original stuff that he was playing, but he also did a cover of Dixie Chicks. And I was like, I gotta say, man, I didn't have that on my bingo card. That's that's one thing that I definitely wouldn't have banked on happening. But it is. You're right.
I'm gonna use that.
Please do.
I didn't have that on my bingo card.
I didn't have that on my bingo card. Couldn't even cross that one off. Well, let's give the people what they want. So we've already talked about, you have a massive tour ink schedule coming up for the rest of the year and into next year. Do you have any, is this all in support of this EP that you just released, or are you thinking about putting out more new music? Are we writing a lot? Kind of what does that look like for you?
So when we first started to go in and do this EP, we had a mess of songs on the table. We were just like, which ones do we do? And we were literally we love them all. And we were like, you know what? It only feels right to do these 6 because we started with these 6. Let's go that route. Mm-hmm. And so the plan is right now, in July, we're releasing music videos for all the songs on the EP. So we've already released 2. We did Lighthouse Keeper and we did The Rain.
Okay.
Those have been so successful. I think The Rain's sitting up over like 37,000 right now. And I think Lighthouse Keeper just crossed like 45,000.
Nice.
And so, yeah. And so we are setting up for the song Reach that's on the EP, and we're dedicating that to all the first responders for EMT and fire. Not that we don't have respect for our military, but what a lot of people don't, I don't ever see people like giving back to the volunteers of EMTs and fire departments.
Yeah.
And so we're dedicating the song to those people that literally work for free every day on top of working a job, on top of having kids to go out and save lives. What's really cool about that too is my great grandfather was the first fire chief of Haltom City. And so Jim Davis, the fire chief of Fort Worth, got involved. He's reaching out to the gentleman, the current fire chief of Haltom City. And we're going to try and shoot the music video inside the Haltom Fire Department. And then we're getting a bunch of B-roll that is all from people that have fallen while on the job and doing a memoriam during the music video to them. Yeah. And then we have the song You and I. We're shooting for that. Bring Me Home and The Creep. And so we have a girl that's here in Fort Worth who's how do I say this? Dance choreographer?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. She is creating a dance for The Creep.
Okay.
Which I is totally out of my box. I'm like, whatever. you do that.
You do you.
You do you. Yeah, I couldn't tell you if it looks good or not. I'd be like, yeah, thumbs up. That's great. It could be girls on pogo sticks. I don't know what's going to be. No idea.
With the twirly ribbons.
That might be kind of awesome, but.
That would be so awesome. So is that intended for just the music video, or are we thinking about throwing that on like a TikTok and seeing if it takes storm as a
no
TikTok
idea
dance?
So many new things have started coming our way through management, and all these ideas every day just get shot on I got on the phone this morning and I was just like, okay, whoa, slow down, let me write this down. Can we get into the Dropbox? Yeah.
We'll put that in a suggestion box for next time. We'll just stick that over in Idea Land. And yeah.
July, we're going to try at the end of July. We're going to try and go in and we're doing a Halloween song. JP Ashkar released a song during Halloween a couple of years ago, and it's the song Halloween. Mm-hmm. And it was really kind of bluesy the way he did it. And I thought, man, we could kill this. We could do this with the upright, with the banjo, with the fiddle, guitar, drums, let's take this song to another level. So we're going to record that, release that for Halloween for October. And then we're doing Oh Holy Night our way for Christmas.
Nice.
Oh Holy Night's always been in a major. We haven't decided yet, but the idea is that it's been a major key and then drops to a minor key. Well, we're going to try and put it at a minor key. We're going to try and put it at a minor key with a lower minor key.
Oh, okay.
And just darken the whole thing. Because that's
going to have that dark feeling with it. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Well, I'm excited to see how that pans out. But yeah. So we've got tons of months of touring and then shooting music videos to put out and some holiday specials. And the first responder, that memoriam sounds like it's going to be probably a tearjerker for a lot of people. Yeah. But that's great that you're recognizing, those volunteers in that line of service, which is wonderful. I was just listening to The Rain before we jumped on here, kind of like going through a little bit of your catalog, and that one's really good. I got through almost all of the EP, and I like everything that I've heard so far. I was also listening to some of your other stuff that you had on Spotify. Very different sound, but also like super cool. I love all of that. I like asking artists this because it feels like it's different for everybody, which might be giving away my punchline. I think it's different for everybody, but how do you approach releasing new music? Do you feel like it's like a combination of like teasing some of the lyrics, of like putting out a little bit of a video, of doing a lot of a social push, playing it a lot on the road while you're live? Like, how do you think about hyping up people for new music coming?
I've never been big on setting up in front of the phone and doing. I've tried it before. I've done it a few times, but I usually do songs we already have. I think when it comes down to new music, I feed off of the crowd, but I feed off of a live audience. Okay. And so, like the other night, we did a new song. It's a waltz. It's called "I Can't Waltz You Out the Door," and we tried it. And it's different because instead of using a normal guitar, I'm using a baritone guitar, and the tone, everything changes. And so I didn't know how the crowd was going to take it, because in our show, we try to do, if we have to do longer than a 90-minute set, if we're doing a 2-hour show, where the whole thing has got this even flow to it. It's just, takes you up, takes you down, takes you up. And so I guess that's how, is trying it in front of a live audience. Don't try doing it on video and sitting afterward. What do you think about this song? Should I release this? Blah, blah. The crowd will tell you. Yeah. There's a place I've been playing at for 10 years called the Blue Bayou, which is in North Fort Worth. Okay. And it's literally a home gig. We play there every other Wednesday. You don't have to promote. You don't have to say a word. It's like the best kept secret. You don't say a word about it. You just, on the day of, headed to the Bayou, you guys know the drill. I don't have to put a poster up, nothing. And there'll be 150, 60 people there, just packed. That crowd ranges from like 21 to 65. Oh, wow. And very diverse. If it sucks, you'll know. You'll know. They'll just go quiet. They just want, whatever. Yeah. But if it hits home with them, you hear it. And so that's always been kind of that place has always been really good on a Wednesday night. We do it once a month, every other Wednesday. And you go in there, you're like, you know what, let's try this new one. Let's try this. Yeah. See what happens, and then if it works there, then we're like, okay, well, let's use it in our next big show. See what happens. There's a definite energy to Deadwood Revival that is completely different, because we all come from these different backgrounds. And I know you hear bands say that all the time, when really a lot of bands come from the same background. When I say we all come from different backgrounds, I mean like black and white. Like, it is different. Like Bob, our upright player, is a classical upright teacher. Our fiddle player grew up in bluegrass. Our drummer grew up in drumline and hip hop and rap. And for him to be doing a train beat is totally out of his realm for country music. And then I grew up in nothing but Southern rock and metal. And so when COVID happened, before Deadwood was born, we were still doing this trio rock and roll deal. And then COVID happened, and it was like, we could only get certain shows, and they had to be really small, and they had to be. So at the time, the members I had then were like, you know what, let me bring my upright. Like, I'll knock down to a kick and a snare and a hi-hat. And I was like, well, I'll do acoustic, And so we took those rock songs and transferred them over to this. And then everything kind of fell apart after COVID. And we were just like, man, it's like hitting a restart button. What do we do here? And I was honestly like ready to just throw in the towel. Like, I've been doing this my whole life. I've been doing this since I was a child. 6 years old, I've been doing this, Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I was like, it's time to just turn it in. And then I met Corey, our fiddle player, and he had come on right before this all kind of fell apart. And I'm looking at Corey going, want to keep going? He's like, yeah, I don't think we should stop. And I was like, we have to find another bass player. We have to find another drummer. Completely restart this thing. Like, we're at a restart point. And it was the best thing that ever happened. Like, we found Bob found us. That's a whole nother story. And then we went through a couple of drummers, and then he knew AC. And so we brought AC in, tried him out. And then it has just been going straight up since then. We haven't gone down yet. I mean, it's just still
exponential growth.
Yeah.
That's great. And that's such an interesting concept. And that was also my very next question. How'd you guys find each other? Because you haven't been around like that long with this career concept. So that's really cool that you kind of just met each other organically or whatnot. But I was talking to Adira Kay the other week, and she said that she was also like very close to quitting. And it is just right around that time where like the biggest things in her career happened for her. And I was like, that's such an interesting, another phenomenon where a lot of people feel like right as they feel like throwing in the towel, as you would say, that everything then just seems to fall into place. It's like, it's like subconsciously testing us, right? Like, how far are you willing to go? Okay, now you feel like you're quitting, but you're not going to. Okay, well, now we'll throw in all the right ingredients here for you. So that sounds like that's kind of what you got there.
It's terrifying too, because you know, like I'm 42, bass player's 45, Corey's the youngest, he's 35. I think AC's 37. Mm-hmm. We're all in this age group where it's like we could easily have another 5-10 years out of this at the rate we're at now. But it's all a decision making of like, you know, we sat down at a table not too long ago and we all talked about it. I said, guys, look, we have some choices. We either become a weekend warrior band, we become 50% covers, 50% originals, and just keep doing what we're doing, or we turn in the towel completely and go get jobs and do this once a month, or we go balls out and put every egg we got in one basket. Yeah. And we're going to have massive sacrifices, and we're going to have to dial things back at home. If there's, you know, subscriptions and crap you don't normally use, turn them off, get the bills down to like base pay, and let's get out of the road and go play, because we're never going to know if we don't get out there and try. And at least at the end of that, if nothing happens, at least we know we did it and we can get that off our conscience, because if we don't do it, we'll live with it for the rest of our life. Right.
The what if, what would have happened if, you know. Yeah. So I'm assuming that unanimously, though, that was the choice of everyone, was to just go all in and do the thing. Yeah.
Everybody was, I'm in. I mean, and everybody's got different things. Everybody's got wives, and only one of us has a kid. And so it's like, do we do this? And is our wives going to be, are they going to be okay? Of course, my wife's been my biggest supporter forever. So she's like, absolutely. Right. I'm not going to tell you to stop. And then Bob's wife's the same way to AC and Corey. So I can't explain it. I don't know where in the last 3 months where the turn came, but like we saw it last weekend, we saw it the weekend before. And, you know, when you're in the set and you're playing and then you get to the record and you get to those songs and then you're hearing that crowd scream the lyrics right back to you, it's like, all right.
Right choice. Yep.
This was the right choice. This is working.
Yeah, that's such a moment when you're up there and everybody is just kind of feeling along with you as, you know, you're going through the performance, and they're all resonating with the lyrics and the songs in their own way. How would you describe your all's sound right now to someone who's never heard your music before? What would you say to them? And the answer could be you just have to hear it to know, kind of thing, I guess. Yeah.
I always go back to, and I've heard a couple of people say two things that kind of resonated with me. One was, you're a Louisiana, Texas swamp rock bluegrass. Okay. And I said, okay. And then I heard another person say, you're the love child between Dave Matthews and Mumford & Sons.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, okay, that I can see. Yeah, totally. Because
interesting.
Yeah. So I was like, okay. And they're like, yeah, you took Texas flair and put it into that. And I was like, all right, I can take that. I'll do that.
I don't know if I would have pegged that, but I like, now that you're saying that, I like the description. The first one, a little confusing, but also intriguing, right? And then second one was a little bit more like right on, you know, people could really take that, but yeah.
That's the biggest question too, because like when people are at shows, they come up to you and they're just like, what is this? Why do I love this so much? You know? And then that's, you know, and then you start seeing those people out at every show. They're like, I can't explain it. It's rock, it's blues, it's funk, it's country, it's pop, it's everything. It's all rolled into one. Some of the things that we do during the show that's really fun is like, instead of just playing a cover song to play a cover song, you see cover bands that'll do like mashups, you know, of all these songs together. Well, we'll do it in the middle of doing one of our originals. Oh. So we'll do an original, and then we'll do a quick mashup of tunes in the middle, and then come back to the original to finish it.
Nice.
And people are like, okay, all right, you know.
I can do that.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Because like one song we might be playing Tom Petty, the next song we might be playing Goo Goo Dolls, the next song is, you know, John Mayer, you know. You never know what it's going to be, you know?
Yeah, very versatile. No, yeah, maybe people like love it because it's something that they've never heard before. I could see somebody like that being their, response to like, I don't know why I like this so much. Maybe just because I've never heard anything like it.
Yeah.
It's just so resonates in your head so much. Well, how all your guys are from different backgrounds. Did it take a long time to kind of settle on or come to or find that current style? Or like, what was no, it just
that was the creepy thing is usually it does. Usually it takes 6 months, and that's the mind stress of it is that you're like, oh, I can get used to playing with this guy now. Like, all right. And it didn't. It was instant. I mean, it took Bob 2 shows. He was in the game. Yeah. And I think that's what helped is that it was Corey and I, then Bob, and it was a trio, and we performed as a trio. Mm-hmm. And because a lot of what I'm doing on stage, like I use a loop station, right? So the key to a loop station is not to sound like you're using a loop station. The goal to a loop station is to be able to use it. Nobody even has a clue that you're using it. And then they're like, how's he playing lead rhythm and singing at the same time? And they don't even hear it turn on,
Yeah.
Some people have gone as far as saying, oh, you guys are using backing tracks. I'm like, no, I've just been using a loop station since it was on the Line 6 DL4 20 some odd years ago. And so then to find a drummer that can lead the band and follow, because once you set that loop station, he's got to go from leading to following and then back to leading when I turn it off. And that's really hard to do. Michael Ross Fitch played for me for a long time, 15 years. And when I was trying that with him, he was like, no, you got to set that to me. I was like, that's not how it works, man. It's got its own brain. Yeah. When I set that thing and it's in tempo, you got to stop, follow the click and follow that. He's like, well, how can we get those two things to sync up? And I'm sure there's a way. We just don't have 50 grand to make it happen.
Right.
I don't have Ed Sheeran money. So
I was like, the only person I've ever heard do a loop is Ed Sheeran in a live show. So, but yeah, interesting.
And it's to not do it like that. It's not because Ed will build like a whole show up, and then he gets under. So 3 minutes later, he's finally getting into the song.
Yeah.
We don't want that to happen. We want to be in the song, playing already, and then while I'm singing, I hit the loop button and I'm looping the guitar, and then as we get to the bridge, I'll turn it back on and play lead to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has its own heartbeat. It has its own thing. It just is, alive on its own. You got to meld to that. That's really interesting. I'm going to have to go see. I'll have to come down and watch you guys because that sounds like something I've never seen before.
On YouTube, we got a...
right. YouTube too. Okay.
We have it's live at Lava Cantina. The song's called Take Me Back to Texas. And we start out with a fiddle solo. And then it goes into Dropkick Murphys.
Oh, hell yeah.
And then it goes into Take Me Back to Texas. And then it goes into Voodoo Child. Then it goes into Pink Floyd. Then it goes into Turn the Page. And then back out. I build that back out to Take Me Back to Texas. Nice. And that is the perfect, when people say, like, what do y'all do? Like, watch this video. It's 17 minutes long. It's a 17-minute long venture of exactly what it is we do.
That's so cool.
And what's crazy is on that video, Bob had a $4,000 bow from Eastman, and he is just going to town at the base, and there's this big breakdown that hits, or he explode back in, and that $4,000 bow just snapped right in half. And I remember you'll see me in the video looking at him, looking down at him, and he's looking back at me. He's like, shit, like we're just like,
what do I do now?
He's like, what do I do? He's like he's playing the bass with his hands, like
yeah.
And he was just like, I just broke a $4,000 bow. I can't afford another one. Like, then he got sponsored by Eastman, and now
that's what I was going to say. They should have given him another one.
Yeah, they did. They sure did. Yeah.
They got to come back with showcasing their resiliency after that one. If you're going to charge me $4,000 for a bow and it breaks,
right?
Give me another one.
Well, that's been a whole other challenge. Is like all the stuff on the road with all these instruments. It's like Texas is not exactly cool this time of year.
Yes, it's probably the very, very opposite. But yeah.
Well, I mean the whole winter, all through like October to March, we were trying to go north for July, August, September, and it's like the exact opposite happened. It's like, let's put you down at Crystal Beach and Galveston. Let's go do Brewster Street and Corpus. And I'm like, when? They're like, yeah, July 31st, August 1st, August 2nd. I'm like,
dead of summer.
right in the middle of like
Hottest
114
places,
degrees
dead of
in the
summer.
shade. Yeah.
Totally.
Totally.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just reading that like there's some festival down in like Florida where 35 or so people were hospitalized due to the heat and stuff like that. I'm like, goodness, you got to think about what the artists are going through up there too, right? Because like there's no respite when you're the one kind of just up there with the pressure of performing and you're in the sun and you're the spot. Anyways, yeah, wow, that's a lot. Goodness. Well, best of luck with that for sure.
Right. Yeah.
No, it's just, I mean, it's interesting to me the way you talked about how the sound kind of came about with the newer people kind of feeling like they were cascading into the band at different times. Maybe that's kind of like each person was coming in whilst the other people had established that, like the sound, and they've established like understanding of where you were. And then you added a new person instead of all trying to put it together all at once. Maybe that was something that alluded to it, like becoming, feeling like it was so easy.
I think it was just that I can't tell Corey what to do on fiddle. I'm not a fiddle player, and I'm not
feels it.
And I didn't grow up in his genre. If this was a guitar player and we both grew up playing rock and roll, I could say, do a lick like this, and I could show him, or the drummer. If the drummer was a rock drummer growing, I could relate to that, or the bass player. But these guys all come from massively different backgrounds. Sure. And so like Bob on that upright bass, his main instrument is upright. He'll switch to a 5-string bass during some songs. But when he does the upright, I can't tell him what to do and what not to do. I can just only point out if it sounds bad. Like if I think it sounds bad, I'll let him know. But it's a decision made by everybody. Everybody has a vote.
Sure.
Everything's transparent. Everybody talks with each other. It's not one, chief running it and going, hey, don't do that. It sucks.
Right.
It's, hey, let's try something else, and input anybody, and then be like, yeah, I don't really hear it, but let me listen back to it. Oh yeah, no, I hear it now. Yeah, let's try and change that.
Yeah. So, and everyone has their own ability to just like have a creative interpretation of, diverse backgrounds. There's a different creative interpretation of how they feel like it's going to go. And they're the expert at this instrument. So yeah, interesting. I've been having to go watch that YouTube video to see kind of just like personify how you're describing it, because I'm very intrigued on how that, because and also as an Irish person with a diverse taste in music, I love Dropkick Murphys. Oh my gosh, I love them so much. Them, Flogging Molly, I'm just like, I get excited for St. Patrick's Day, except I listen to them like outside obviously St. Patrick's Day. They're really good workout music in my opinion, but that's definitely interesting.
You're in Nashville, correct?
I am, yes.
Yeah. So what's St. Patty's like in Nashville?
Bar crawls.
I mean, isn't every day in Nashville pretty much?
Yeah, but I think it just gives people the opportunity and excuse to just wear green and drink a lot of beer with food dye in it, and take a lot of shots and wear a lot of green beads. And yeah, there's some Irish like pubs around that do special celebrations, parades and whatnot. But yeah, it's mostly just, you just really mostly just get pub crawls.
Have you ever gone home to the homeland for?
I've been to the homeland. I have been to the homeland. The first thing someone said to me, it was actually for a school trip. When I was in college, I did study abroad for a month there. And the very first thing somebody said to me, as soon as I got off the plane, we got on the tour bus, we got to our very first stop around the Trinity College.
Yeah.
And you just said, hey, welcome home. I was like, oh, wow. That's going to go down in the history book. So the very first thing anyone ever said to me in Ireland was welcome home. And I'm just like, thank you.
Mine was totally different. We got off a long plane flight, got in, we got down to what's the quarters down there called? It's the main drag. It's the Temple Bar District. Got down to the Temple Bar District, got to the Temple Bar Hotel. Steve Helms and I come walking off the bus, and this dude just face plants it's 7:00 in the morning. He face plants right on the concrete in front of us. And I go,
oh my gosh.
Oh my God. And I looked at Steve, and he was like, remember, we're here for a pub crawl. It's not a race. It's a crawl.
Tis a marathon.
Yes.
Tis a marathon. Prepare for,
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
but I never knew. Well, I think I was, let me think about this. I might have been, I was not 21 at this point. I believe I was just 20, 19 or 20. And have still obviously tried beer before. And the difference there and here of Guinness, even just like it's uncomparable. And now I just can't do it. And I loved it. It was so good. It was just the little wafer at the bottom, how crisp it was, just such a fresh taste. And now I'm just spoiled. And I can't wait to go back. But I'm glad that you had a good experience too.
Do you know what it is? It's the water.
Really?
I was so like
mineralized water.
Because the guy that was with us kept pushing Guinness in our face. And I was like, I'm not a big drinker, but okay. All right. I'll have a Guinness. And so I drank it and I was like, oh my God. This does not taste like Guinness.
No.
He's like, oh no, you've been drinking that American crap. This is Guinness. And I was like, but isn't it the same? He's like, no, they brew Guinness over in the States and then sell it. And it's the water. And I go, what? He goes, it's the water that it's made with here. And I go, wow. Oh, wow. That makes total sense, I guess, in a weird way. And then, 60 more Guinnesses later, we were trashed. You know,
PSA to anyone listening, if you like Guinness here, you must go to Ireland and try Guinness there. Totally. It just feels so heavy here. Like it feels like a stout here. There, it just is very crisp.
It feels like you're drinking chalky chocolate milk here.
This is molasses that is just disguised as a beer.
Milk was a bad choice. I have not.
The beer mile with Guinness. Oh, all right. Well, we won't even think about that. So I love that tangent. Anyways, so going back to you personally, you'd said before that I held in my mind that you'd been at this since you were 6 years old. On a personal note, I thought I read a story where it was like something that had to do with your mom kind of helping either teaching you how to sing or getting you into this. Like, what did that look like? What was your journey from, realizing as a child, this is what you wanted to do?
So on my mom's side of the family, everybody played country music. A lot of the cousins played country music, and she was a singer, and then she got signed with Jelly Records out of Nashville, which later became RCA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This part of the podcast is brought to you by, I don't have any sponsors yet, so we're just going to leave that blank.
I've got the actual record, if you can see that.
Whoa, yeah.
From when she got signed.
That is so cool.
Yeah, and if you take the
Molly.
Yeah. Take the record out, it's the original press.
Wow.
Yeah, which says Texas Domino TDP 1003 97 1980. Molly Jo Stowe.
1980. Okay.
Yep. And her songs were I'm Not Ashamed to Cry. And it was produced by Tommy Young. Yeah. And it was all through ASCAP, etc. Anyway, so she was a singer. She was a country music singer, and she was on the rise, really big. And then she got pregnant soon after this record, because I was born in 81, and that was in 80. And they basically told her in 81 when she had me, I was born October 3rd, 1981. Yeah. They told her on October 4th, okay, you got to come to Nashville. We got shows lined up. You got to come right now. Like, we have things ready to get done. She goes, I just had a kid last night. Give me a month. Let me get situated here. Let me get healed. You know, like, if you don't come with this, if you're not here by the end of the week, then we're canceling your contract. And she goes, well, then cancel my contract. I'm going to stay here and be a mother.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so
the day after. Wow.
The day after. Yeah. So through all the family events and stuff, she would always get up. They'd always have a Riders of the Round deal. And it was just really a bunch of pickers. And then she'd stand in the middle and sing while they're all playing banjo and fiddle and acoustic, etc. And then on my dad's side of the family, they were all kind of like rock and blues. And so I was kind of stuck between these two genres. And and so I was 6 when I was 5 years old when I snuck into my mom's office and pulled out her classical guitar out of her case. I had no idea what I was doing. I just wanted to hold it. She
Yeah.
caught me and said, "Be careful with that. Do you want to learn how to play guitar?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was 5 years old, and so there was a guy down the street that had a music store. It was a piano store slash classical instruments, and he gave guitar lessons. Well, my dad at the time was mowing. He owned a lawn mowing service, and so he said, "I'll tell you what. If your son will mow my small, and when I say small, I mean like a patch of grass. If he'll come down here and mow this patch of grass with the weed eater, I will give him guitar lessons each week." And so I did.
Nice.
And so I would go mow his little patch of grass, and he would give me an hour-long guitar lesson. And so by 7 years old, I had learned how to play somewhat of a guitar. And then my sister moved in. My half sister moved in when I was like 11, and my dad, her husband had a Ibanez RG 560 with a Floyd Rose, and he bought it for me for my birthday. And then that is where everything took a massive metal turn, and I got so far into metal that I couldn't see straight, and
Yeah.
loved it. And I loved it because I was so stubborn on the guitar that I was like, I don't have to have real rhythm to do this. I just got to sound like I got rhythm to do this. And, that was the mentality. And I could play all these leads, and I was learning all these Metallica songs and Megadeth and all this stuff and Cannibal Corpse. And I was just going nuts with it. Then I got into punk rock, and I was like, this is even shittier. I can do it better. And I was like, I can do this. And then he passed when I was 16, and I kept going. And then I got really into blues, and then that's where it just took off from there. It was just blues and rock and roll. Sold the Ibanez, bought a Strat, and played acoustic still. And like through all this time, I played shows acoustically to make tips, money.
Yeah.
All through college, all through my 20s, 30s.
Wow.
I always did that. And so being back here in Texas country was becoming a thing in like the 2004, 3, it was exploding with cross-street ragweed and all this, it was like, what the hell is this? This is just, and I remember saying it back then, I was like, these are country bands that couldn't make it. So they just took the garage band and called it Texas country. Like, And then I started loving some of the writers, and I was like, man, these writers are really good. And that's when I got on this, like the lyric journey, and started going on the lyric side of things, and then started to respect more and more of these guys like Scott Copeland, etc. And I was like, man, these dudes, Mike McClure and so many, Adam Hood, so many. Like I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is awesome. And then to know about guys like Stapleton way back then, and hearing about him through the writers, writing for so many guys in the 90s, and then up through, and then becoming a fan of the Steel Drivers, and then watching him just later on just explode, was just like, wow, okay, well, this can happen. This can happen, And so here we are, 30 some odd years later. Yeah, 34, 35 years later, still going. Yeah.
This is really, really rooted into you from a very young age, from every angle.
Yeah.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
How do you approach the songwriting process? Like, is it something where you feel like it's more emotionally driven, it's more experiential driven? Like, kind of, where do you find your inspiration when you sit down and you're writing?
Sometimes it'll be, it used to be like I would see something on a movie, and I would use the feeling I got from that and the situation I was watching, and I would learn from that, and then I would write something out of making a story. A lot of it came from personal experiences with my wife, my mother, my father, and I got into a really dark time there for a while, and I tried to get out of that and start writing more positive and writing with other people. Joey Green and I wrote a song about 6 months ago, and it was the first time I'd found myself like in studio sitting down, holding your guitar, going note for note with the guy and writing. I hadn't done that in so long because usually it just comes to me. I get something in my head and I'm like, oh my God, I could write it down, or I pick up my phone and hum it. Then I start going through these guitars and which one do I want to do this on? I love writing on a baritone guitar because you can play it like you would play it normal 446 string, but it's going to sound darker and I can lightly sing to it, and I'll write something on there and then I'll translate it up to a normal 6 string and just, I don't know, just ever challenging the ideas. The Rain, all these songs on the EP kind of just came naturally. It's all just a feeling of what was going on. The Rain, I mean, is literally talking about let's just have happiness in a moment of darkness. As I mean, it's everywhere you look, especially here in the mid-city, in Nashville. I mean, I was up there a couple of years ago, and it was like we went to Winners and Losers, and we went to the Red Door, and we went around, and as I'm like watching everything going on, I'm just seeing this. I don't know. I can't explain it. I just see the bad in things to see the good, and I was in this place where I was just like, man, everybody is just kissing everybody else's ass to get to the next point of whatever that is, and what does it matter? And I was in that mind frame. And so that's where the Rain came from, was like, put your hand in my back pocket. Let's dance in the middle of the rain as it falls. I was, down here in the corner. I saw the good and the bad, shaking hands, making a deal. Like,
wow.
It's just, let's leave. Let's get out of here. That was kind of where that song came from. And when I got home from Nashville, then I went to LA, then I went to New York, and I got, and just all of it. It all kind of came in at one time. And I was just like, I had the Rain chorus years ago, and we released a version of it back then, and I never liked it. I always, that was a record that I made disappear because it was produced by somebody that was a horrible person. I should have never been involved with them. And so I always had that chorus on the back and I was home playing the song. I was like, man, I could do this. I could put the Rain with it. These lyrics, this makes total sense in my head anyway.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's kind of how the writing goes. It's just thoughts that come to be and never try to force it. Writing with Adam Hood was really awesome because he's really good at calling you out on your indiscrepancies in your writing. Like, like, I
don't know. Like,
I'll send him a song and be like, well, if you kind of want to do that non-fictional writing, like, that's cool. I'm like, okay, well, this was a serious moment that happened in my life, but that's not what you're hearing, so I need to reword this, And so I'll bounce back an idea, then he'll bounce back an idea, and then I'm like, oh, yeah, you were right, Adam. We totally should have gone this route. Damn, I didn't think of that. Why? This is why you do what you do, man.
Right. Yeah, we talked to him a few weeks ago, and he did I guess his recent one of his recent singles, Stage Lights or something for us. And I was like, that seems very autobiographical of you, very experiential, a first person kind of story there. But yeah. It's crazy how it just kind of comes. And I wrote a little bit when I was younger, and you're right, like it just, nothing ever really feels right when you try to force it. And it's like, you're trying to tell a story perhaps that just like you're kind of creating from thin air versus something that you've witnessed or something that you've experienced or something that you've been told, kind of thing, where it just kind of comes up from that, which that's really cool. You can definitely hear that coming through in what you do.
Lighthouse Keeper was that Scott Copeland wrote that song.
Oh, okay.
So Cross Canadian Ragweed had put it on the Garage record, and a lot of people have asked why, so I'm just going to put this out there. Why did you do Lighthouse Keeper? Well, one, can we cuss on here?
Yeah.
It's fucking awesome. That's why. Yeah, that's why.
You can.
Listen to the damn song. Like, listen to the lyrics. Scott Copeland was high as hell when he wrote that song.
Yeah.
I've heard the stories about how he wrote this song and how he was on like a literally like a 10-day acid bender. And he woke up in the middle of Andy Pate's living room and grabbed a trash bag and started writing down on a grocery bag. I was writing it down.
Oh, my
It was
grocery
just
bag.
this story, and then he put it together, and then that's how I became lighthouse keeper. And then, Cross Canadian picked it up and did it, and they did this whole instrumental back in, which I always thought was cool. But then I've seen Scott perform it 100 times, and I was like, we should take the best of both what Scott does and what they did and what we do and do the song. I've been performing that song forever. I mean, as long as I can remember, So
Nice.
I was like, yeah, let's put that on there. Because lyrically, it's like, man, that's a mind fucking and a half trying to remember it all. Yeah. It's like writing with Mike McClure. Like, that's a whole nother. I would love to see Adam and Mike McClure get into a room and write with each other, because what would come out of that room will either be complete garbage or it's going to be the most golden thing we've ever heard.
Most amazing thing ever. Yeah. Manifest that collab there.
There will be no in between. It'll either be garbage down here or awesome.
Well, I guess we'll see. Hint if he hears this. Well, I have one more question for you.
Sure.
And this is because I did a little bit of stalking on the TikTok sphere. But normally I ask people if they have like a hobby or an interest or something that we don't really know about you. And then I found your TikTok. And there's a lot of talk about Paraflix, maybe. Is that a side project? Or like, tell us what that is, because I'm very intrigued about what's going on there.
So, yeah. So, okay, Paratheory is the name of it. Paratheory is the name of the show. And so I have always been intrigued by the paranormal. Like, that is so one of the biggest.
Focus.
It is, 100%. Cool. And when I was a kid, we'd all do the kid things, like go break into the spooky house down the street, or you always had that one thing,
Yeah.
And we had a bunch of trees. We moved into this house. We moved out of I always give my mom shit about this, because we moved out of like the home they built in Colleyville. All right. They built this home for $280,000. So back then in 82, that was kind of expensive,
Sure.
And it was paid off, and they sold it, and they moved out, and they moved to a rental home on the other side of town, all because in the backyard it had this big shop. And the shop is so my dad could have his race car and his lawnmower company. And that was the only reason they moved there. This house was like the oldest house in Colleyville. It had been rebuilt, added onto, rebuilt, added onto, rebuilt, added onto. And we had, as a kid, I had a bunch of strange things that was happening in the house. And my mother, being a singer, etc., she always, my dad said, your mom is psychic. I swear to God, she's psychic. And I'm like, whatever. She does tarot cards. It doesn't mean she's psychic. She reads cards. Big deal. And when the Amber Hagerman thing happened, so which created the Amber Alert, right? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, okay. I do.
So when that was going on, one morning, was when they were still looking for Amber, and Mom's watching the TV. She's cooking breakfast, and she says, they're just looking in the wrong place. They're never going to find her over there. She's not in West Fort Worth. And Dad, makes a joke and was like, well, if you know where she's at, why don't you just call the police and tell us, Miss Psychic? Just tell them. She goes, you know what? Fine. Just to prove a point to him, she goes, I will call the police right now and tell them. So she gets on the phone, and he goes, you're not going to do it. She gets on the phone and calls the police and says, my name is Molly Woolard, and I think I have info as to where Amber Hagerman her body is at. And
oh my gosh.
You need to understand that I'm a psychic medium, and I'm going to give you some info. And of course, back then, now we hear about it all the time, but back then, they were like, oh my God, here we go. Crazy lady on the phone, right?
Yeah.
And she goes, okay, well, or you can hear him up. She has him on speaker, and she's like, you can hear the officer say, okay, well, what do you know? She goes, well, she's on the Trinity. She's on the Trinity River. She's right off Highway 360 on the Trinity on the west side. And she'll be about a half mile down. She'll be covered up with brush, and she's got bite marks all over her body. I'm seeing bite marks. and they're human bite marks, and she's naked. She's under a brush pile, and you're going to find her because her feet are kind of hanging off in the water a little bit. So if you take some search dogs down there, you're going to find her relatively quick. And he goes, let me get your name and number right quick and your address. And about 25 minutes later, we had detectives on our doorstep, and they had found Amber Hagerman that morning and hadn't released it to the public yet.
And it was exactly like she described.
Exactly the exact same spot she was at.
Oh my God.
And from that day on, Dad and I never questioned her. And
oh my God.
We always had weird things happen in the house, but we always played it off. But then I just thought, man, this has got to be because of her. Like, this is... So I was always intrigued from that point on. And so Paratheory is exactly... it's a paranormal show where we go out and we try and gather evidence for the paranormal. And my buddy Craig Youngblood, who's the owner of Western Soul Photography, and I started doing it just as a hobby.
Yeah.
And we're going out to these places that have history and this and that. And we're using cameras and certain devices that are all trigger objects, and we're trying to make it happen. And we weren't really capturing anything. And then we did start capturing stuff, and stuff that we just could not explain. And so, like out of 20 some odd places, we got 6 that we decided to make a show with. And this last one that we're doing, June 23rd, we're doing a sneak peek of the season finale. And we caught it. North Richland Hills PD is, let's put it this way, there's no reason to keep going. Like, you're out looking for it all your life, whether you believe it or not, and then you see this thing and go, I don't need to go forward anymore.
Need further.
Like, I mean, there is literally a moment where I just and that when it happened, I froze. I was like, I cannot believe I just saw what I saw. And we caught it. For once, we caught it on camera. And I ran home. It was only just down the street. And I remember getting home at 3 o'clock in the morning. I came in here in the studio and immediately jumped on the computer and went straight to that footage and saw it. And I called Craig on FaceTime. I was like, dude, you got to see this. And held the phone up to the screen. I'm sitting doing this number. And I'm like, look at this. And he'll tell you, every hair on his body stood up. Because, when it comes in the frame, you're just like, there's no denying that. That is a person. That is 100%. This is going to be
on your show, the final episode.
The season finale.
The season finale of the show.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. That's wild.
We've had a bunch of crazy stuff happen for those episodes. But we've had times where we always joke about, 2 grown men just sitting here in the dark, talking to ourselves. We'll never get this time back. We're here, just happy to be here,
Yeah. But I mean, you eventually, if you believe it's out there and you want to experience that, then it's gonna you found something, you saw something, it just validated for you outside of your mother's experience. Wow, that is wild.
Yeah. So that's Paratheory is kind of the, what do you call it, the hobby per se. I mean, I didn't expect it because we put it on YouTube, and then we got approached by Paraflix, by Natalie Jones. She's the CEO of Paraflix. She goes, would you be interested in doing a series on here? You guys do really good work. And I said, sure.
Heck yeah.
What's what do we got to do here? She's like, well, it's just when you're ready to release an episode, it's just kind of like YouTube, but you're putting it up to Paraflix and it'll be exclusively here. And I was like, all right. When I talked to Craig, I was like, do we really want to go the distance with this? We're not getting paid to do this. This isn't our spare time. He's like, well, let's just do it when we're available to do it. So we'd come up with an idea, or friends would tell us, well, I should go like the VFW 2399. We found out it was an old sanitarium, and we started looking into the history on it. And then we found out the place is 24,000 square foot and it's 2 stories tall. And I'm like, geez, this is an old insane. It's like, this is an old hospital. And then we go out there and the guy gives us a tour. There's an electroshock therapy room, and there's a morgue, and and then we start looking into the history of it. And then we find out the history is super dark. And I'm like, man, this dude, this Dr. Millings got away with murder, hardcore, thousands of people dead, and he just didn't work, moving on to Dallas and retired. just like the state just gave him permission to kill people.
Right. Any experimentation. No,
I grew up outside. Science.
In the name of science. Yeah, I grew up outside of Louisville and like I've been to Waverly Hills Sanitarium. And that scared. Just looking at the building. Oh yeah, just looking at the building. It's just like.
Yeah, that's like on the bucket list. Yeah, we want to. And Deadwood, like all the guys in the band are all into it. And so like on one of the episodes, we had Corey come out, and then Bob and AC haven't been able to because they got school. And usually when we get these dates, it's on a school night. Right. So like they gotta teach the next morning. They can't be up till 5 o'clock in the morning, chasing ghosts. And so we were talking about like if this tour goes successfully, that we would try and maybe do like a cross-platform deal where we would try and do a tour on theaters that have a haunted history and play a show there, stay the night, and then the next night do an investigation with the whole band. And like, I don't know, something fun to do.
That's a cool concept. Talk about probably not done before, and that's super cool. And the name of the band too, like alludes to what a perfect fit. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
I love that.
Yeah, it's crazy. I never thought we'd actually be doing it. I thought this is going to be just fun to go out for a couple times. And then we started having things happen. And then when we started having things happen, I was like, well, how the hell does that happen? And then we had something happen that was just, there's 6 people involved. We're actually, for the next season, all these people that were involved, we're all sitting down and talking about it because we were all there. We all saw the same thing. We all witnessed it. We were at I'll just tell you what it is. We were at the Jefferson Hotel. Jefferson, Texas, notoriously the most haunted town in the state of Texas.
Okay.
And we went out there to stay at the Jefferson Hotel, which is notoriously the most haunted hotel in the state of Texas. And we went out there and they were having this festival called Boo Fest. And they're real big. Yeah. They're really big on like Halloween, etc. And so we were like, well, we'll go out on Sunday and catch the rest of the festival, and then we'll stay Sunday, Monday, and we'll leave Tuesday. Well, we were wrong. We got out there and we checked into the Jefferson, but the town's just dead. Like there's no festival. And I'm like, what happened to the Boo Fest? They're like, oh, that was yesterday. It wrapped up last night. They all went home this morning. Oh. I go, they're like, and the lady at the hotel was like, you guys are the only ones staying here until Wednesday or until Tuesday. And I go, you mean there's nobody else staying in the hotel? She goes, yeah, we're not taking anymore. You guys are lucky to have it, but I'm going to show you where none of us stay here after dark. So I'll show you where all the food's at. Here's where the kitchen's at. Here's where the coffee's at. We'll be here in the morning at 10 a.m. and we leave at 5 p.m. and we're gone. I said, oh, okay. So then nobody else is staying in the hotel. They're like, 0. You got it to yourself. I was like, well, could we investigate the hotel like as a whole? She's like, absolutely. She goes, we just ask that you don't, stay with your rooms. Don't sleep in any of the other beds, kind of gave us a skeleton key kind of deal, where we go anywhere we wanted. And so she was like, also, you need to know that we just had a festival. So the whole town's out of food. We're running low on everything. So if you want something, you're going to have to go to right. You have to go into like Marshall and go to a Whataburger or something and go there. And I was like, oh, okay. So the first night we were there, we just kind of hung out, smoked some cigars out on the patio. It was just so dead. Like there was just nobody. We didn't see a soul, nothing, not a person, no one. No cars driving on the road. I was like, man, this is just eerie. This is like the town of the dreaded sundown. There's just like nobody here. And so the next day we wake up, still nobody. Daylight. It's a Monday. Nobody's working. You're not seeing any traffic. I'm like, man, Jesus. All right. Well, let's go. Town. Let's go venture. So we went walking around the town. Everything's closed. We went down to the lake. Then we went into Marshall. And then I was like, let's go find dinner somewhere out on, let's just find a restaurant. So we found a Salt Brass, which was like 25, 30 miles away. And we were like, okay, let's go eat there. So we eat, we come back. This is Monday night now. And we come in the door to the Jefferson. And we come up these stairs. The rooms we had was 18 and 19. which 15, 18, and 19 are the three most haunted rooms in the hotel. But they said 15 wasn't available. And I said, well, if nobody's staying here, why can't we have 15?
It's not available.
Because there's 6 of us. There's 6, there's, 2 each, a group of 3 groups. And so I was like, well, we'll put 2 in each room. And they're like, sorry, 15's under construction. It's not available. I said, oh, okay. So 4 of us stayed in 18, 2 of us stayed in 19. And I was like, all right. So we get back from eating Monday. We're coming up the stairs and we're greeted in the hallway by this elderly lady wearing a muumuu. She's got like a shower cap on, but it's not a shower cap. It's just, she's just got her hair tied up in it. And she's like, excuse me, do you folks have children? Do you have a little girl that keeps running up and down the hallway? We've been traveling for days and we are extremely tired. It's just my husband and I look in the door and he's in this bed, this big 4-post, like Victorian bed. And he waves and I walk in the room. I was like, oh, hi, I'm Justin. And shook his hand. She's holding the hand of my wife and she's kind of doing the whole like over the top of her hand while she's holding it kind of deal, and she's like just sweet as she could possibly be. Big Southern accent, like a Georgia accent.
Yeah.
And she's like, we've just been traveling for days. And we gotta get some sleep. If you could please have her stop running up and down the hall. And we're trying to explain to her that, man, we don't
have kids here.
I don't have any children here. And
oh my gosh.
And I'm looking at the door and I see 15 on the door. And I'm like, well, it wasn't under construction. There's this elderly couple staying here. They didn't want us to know about it for some weird reason. I'm just thinking all these thoughts are going through my head. Now, Keep in mind, I shook the old lady's hand and I walked in the bedroom and I walked straight up to the bed and shook that dude's hand, who was in like a pinstripe, like pajamas, right? Collar, buttons, pinstripe, light blue and white, had like a little cap on with the ball, the little toboggan thing, had glasses. I looked like Ebenezer Scrooge in a sense, almost.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Right? And she's wearing a muumuu and these slippers, and she's got to be all of like 5 foot. She was small, 4.5 feet. She's tiny. And I was like, well, man, we'll make sure that whatever's happening out here, we'll keep it down for you. So we didn't do anything. We went to bed. And we hung out in our room because it was the bigger room. So we're all 6 in there. We're having some drinks. And we went to bed. And the next morning, I wake up and I go downstairs to get coffee. And the ladies are downstairs that work there. And I said, hey, I thought you said that nobody was going to be here this week. And they were like, you guys are it? And I said, no, there's an elderly couple up in 15 that checked in last night, I guess. And she goes, elderly couple, asking about the child running up and down the hallway, old man in the bed. Now, go back to this. When I was talking about the 4-post bed, I was also thinking to myself, as a 6'7" individual, one, I thought, damn, we got screwed on our room. It was like our room was a piece of crap compared to this room. This room had like red velvet walls, gold trim, 4-post bed. And then I could see on this mirror back behind, like he's laying in the bed. I could see on the mirror the reflection of the bathroom, big, huge porcelain, above ground tub.
It's like old school Victorian kind of thing.
Yes. And I'm like, man, I would give anything to be soaking in that bathtub right now. Good Lord. So she says, old people. And I'm like, yeah. She goes, let me show you something. She grabs the keys for 15. She takes me upstairs. She goes, hope you're ready for this. Watch your step. Opens the door. It is gutted, completely gutted. The whole room. There is no bathroom. There is no bed. There is no walls. You can see the studs in the walls, and there's a huge hole in the floor. You can see down to the floor below it because when they said it's under construction, the AC set in the attic had a horrible leak, and there was a water line, and this thing gave way and gave onto the water line, which busted the water line, which flooded that room, all the walls. So it was water damage. So they took everything out and they're replacing the floors, the whole 9. There was nothing in this room. I said, this is impossible. And I'm screaming I'm like, Glenda, get in here. Icky, Cherokee, everybody, get over here, get over here. You got to see this. It's like, this is the room, right, where these people were at last night. And they're like, yeah. And I'm looking down the hallways like, this is 15. This is the room. It was 15. And I was like, I walked in this room last night. Like, I walked in this room and shook this dude's hand. And where I would have walked, there is 0 floor.
There's no floor. Oh,
no floor.
God.
Yeah.
And so that was just a story that's been told by other people who stayed there. Like, because they recalled the child. So like, people have seen that before.
There's a story of a child that goes up and down the hallway, and she's like running, and she'll move things. Like, she'll grab people's she'll tug on your shirt, or she'll like tap you on the shoulder, like on your pant leg, or she'll move like the vases around that are on the table. She'll readjust them. And then there's the elderly couple from room 15. Yeah. And then there's stories about 19 and 18 about a married couple, and she committed suicide. He got hit by the train outside. This whole mess. That's the whole reason we went, because of that. Because they say those 2 rooms are the most. We had hardly anything happen in those, but we were just taking a. So when that happened, I was like, man, I want to do this. I want to go to these old places and stay when I have time and just try and experience. Like, once you got that rush, I was like, I gotta capture this on film. How do I capture this?
That's insane.
And so there was Paratheory, and that's why that was born. We started doing stuff for fun, and then it became a TV show. And now we have this season, and then we're starting on next season. But with touring and the album, and we're working on another album to come out in March, and then we got the holiday songs, and with everything going on, it's like, I told Craig, I was like, man, we're just going to have to we're trying to because season 1 Paratheory was all about capturing evidence of the paranormal. Now it's like, let's go outside the box and do something different. Like, we're going to go to Anson, Texas, and go see if we can capture the Anson lights. We're going to do some folklore stuff and see if we can capture that on film or tell the story about it, that kind of deal. But it's like, we don't need to capture anything paranormal on as far as what would be considered a ghost, per se. I don't need to capture that on film. We caught it. We got
the evidence. Now let's do some historical storytelling.
Yeah. So when I showed it to Natalie from Paraflex, I was like, I don't even know we should release this. Like, this is like
wild. I've never heard anything like that.
You never know if you're going to capture like how much blowback you're going to get off of it. Like, people are like, this guy's a fucking nut job. Like, oh man, we're just out having fun, but this is.
But you know what you saw, and so did everybody else.
Yeah. I mean, we were both in the same room.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that's what Paratheory is. So yeah, sometimes we'll use the Deadwood platform and we'll put stuff from Paratheory over there, especially this event for June 23rd. We're doing like a sneak peek, a Q&A with the crowd. We're doing some blooper reels, some never before seen footage. And then we're taking VIPs down on a 10-person VIP only to the actual jail where we caught this thing. And then we're going to do a session with them in there where they can use the tools that we used, and we can do a lights out session where it's, everyone's safe, but lights are out. We use these tools, see if we can make a communication, and then call it a night.
What a cool experience. Oh my gosh. Well, I bet you guys weren't expecting a ghost story whenever you tuned into this.
Yeah. They're like, what?
That's so wild. Music and you never know what you're going to get. Music and ghost, paranormal. But that's such a cool combination. Like, that's a really interesting concept. Well, Justin, thank you so much for this. This has been awesome. I'm so excited to have found you, heard your music, gotten to talk to you about all the stuff that you have going on. Guys listening, make sure you find Justin Ross and Deadwood Revival everywhere on streaming. Follow them, keep up with their paranormal activities and their new music and their band. And we hope you guys tune in next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you.